From the Watergate Building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now here are Hotline editors Chuck Todd and John Mercurio.
It's Hotline TV, and I'm John Mercurio.
And I'm Chuck Todd. Didn't think the Senate picture could get any worse for Republicans? Try again. You know, there are now only 7 blue state Republican senators out of the 49 left, and 4 of them are up in 2008. You've got Maine's Susan Collins, New Hampshire's John Sununu, Oregon's Gordon Smith, and Minnesota's Norm Coleman. John, let's pull out that ranking board again and rate the incumbents in order in which we think they may go down.
All
so
right,
from most vulnerable to least vulnerable. Hit me.
All right, these are all 4 blue states, but some are more blue than others. So I think we're going to start out with probably the least likely to go down.
So the safest.
The safest.
And I'm going
to give that to Gordon Smith. This guy's never lost re-election or never had a really, really tough re-election campaign.
He lost to Wyden in the special,
he lost to
and then
Wyden.
won immediately the next year.
He won against Tom
Bruguiere, whatever the hell that name. Bruguiere,
yeah. Tom Bradbury.
There was that too. No, Bill Bradbury. He beat Tom Bruguiere, and then who was the self-funder, and then the Secretary of State Bradbury. Yeah,
right.
Who I always thought Cadbury chocolate.
Who would have been the tallest senator in America, in American history. Thank you very much.
Would he have been? Because Ron Wyden is not a short man either.
No, but this guy was 6'9".
So this would have been the tallest Senate delegation in the country.
And he would have been the tallest in history.
Wow.
But alas, Oregons thought otherwise, and that was a strong challenge.
Oregonians.
Oregon voters thought otherwise.
All right.
Anywho,
whatever the guy that lost to Bob Pack was.
You know, but other than this is sort of the opposite of our show yesterday, where we talked
sorry.
about T-Paw being up there by himself and as a wild card, or as not a wild card. The other 3, I think, all have really, really tough races. I'm going to skip around here. I think Susan Collins starts the 2008 Senate cycle as one of the most vulnerable incumbents, assuming they can find a strong challenger.
I'm with you. I think it's possible.
A Mike Michaud, a John Baldacci.
Because you know what she isn't?
She's not Olympia Snowe. And Olympia Snowe, though, got the easiest ride of the year. That was one of the biggest, it turns out, Democratic recruiting failures of the cycle.
Yeah, they won the Senate. I mean, come on.
They won the Senate, but there are plenty of Democrats in Maine who could have or should have won.
As the tsunami was coming,
if you look at the map, all around you, Democratic pickups, all around Maine.
So you put her up top.
I put her up top. She's never been as popular in Maine, with all due respect,
because
as
she's
Olympia Snowe.
Not Olympia Snowe.
Because she's not Olympia Snowe.
Yeah.
But we can't all be Olympia Snowe.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Then we have another New England Republican running a tough race. I don't know. I go back and forth on how this, on where this should fall, but I'm going to put him right up here next to her. I think
you go do your. You have your ranking board, and I have the ranking board. Sorry. Anyway, I'll let you finish.
You know, I think New Hampshire in 04 went for Kerry. In 06, it definitely went Democratic.
This had to must scare the daylights out of any Republican left in New Hampshire.
This is a race that I think, and you're going to see, I think, Democrats with a pretty strong recruiting potential in New Hampshire.
Sure. Why wouldn't Shaheen come back for a rematch?
I was going to say that would be an interesting rematch. Although rematches, when is the last rematch that's ever succeeded? A Senate rematch.
I'm trying to think. You're right. It doesn't ever.
It doesn't
rarely.
happen. She's been out of office now for 6 years.
It doesn't happen often.
Right.
God, what is the last one? We're going to have to go to Quinn.
But fortunately for Democrats, there's like 750,000 state representatives
who are now Democrats instead of Republicans.
Who are now Democrats, and they're in the majority.
Yeah.
And then finally, this would be a mixed review for Republicans in his state in Minnesota. They didn't win the Senate seat, but they held on to the governor's office. He's going to be a star in 08 just by sheer nature of the fact that Republicans are making a big deal out of Minnesota.
I'm only going to quibble. This way. I'm going to quibble. And I hate to do this to Sununu because he's my favorite.
Interesting.
And I think that on paper, he's sort of what I would call the Jim Talon of this group, the most talented of the senators here.
Small t
talented, but I think suddenly running in a state that has just gone, has left him. And he's very conservative, very likable, but this guy is a economic conservative free marketer, and right now we seem to be moving pendulum swinging wise into this economic populism. He could really be, I think, more vulnerable than people think because of his views on the economy, which are very, very sort of pro-capitalism and to the point of overly pro-capitalism in the minds of some.
The only reason I put him up higher was that he proved his campaign skills in 2002. When he ran against and beat Jean Shaheen, that was a tough race.
But he barely beat her, and if you remember, he barely beat her in a good Republican year. Does he win in that same? He probably no way he wins in any other type of year.
Has she ever had a race ever since she beat Brennan?
No, not really. But
so that's.
I hear you. I think she could be. Look, I think we could quibble, and I almost wonder: are we underselling this one too? I mean, the only reason I put him, I agree with you in keeping it third. the Democratic bench in Minnesota stinks. I mean, the only reason Tim Pawlenty got reelected is because Mike Hatch was about the worst nominee they could have found for governor. There's not that many good candidates. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see if Democrats can keep Patty Wetterling from running in this race, which I'm sure that they're a little nervous about. And how do you handle the Al Franken thing, which I think is more of a problem than it is a benefit, right?
But it's definitely a factor.
We would love it. Bring on Franken.
You saw how my eyes lit up when you said Al
I know,
Franken.
they did. You were just like, really? God, please let him run. Let him run. Maybe Ventura comes back. Maybe make this race just crazy. A little Ventura, Franken.
Just threw up a little bit in my mouth.
Oh, very nice.
But Gordon Smith, relatively safe, at least according to
Unbelievable.
the two of us who know. All right, there we go. More reason for Republicans to stay locked in their tiny little basements. Thank you for joining us. I'm John Mercurio.
Wow, you are so mean to your friends in the elephant suits.
I like to kick people when they're down.
Ouch.
Democrats or Republicans.
All right. And I'm Chuck Todd. We'll see you tomorrow for the big show on Hotline TV.